Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into our time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Crime and Espionage. Brian Donleavy starring in another episode of Dangerous Assignment. This episode of Dangerous Assignment, London, and a passport scandal. This was originally broadcast December 31st, 1952.
Dangerous Assignment. Transcribed starring Brian Donleavy as Steve Mitchell.
Yeah, danger is my assignment. I get sent to a lot of places I can't even pronounce. They all spell the same thing, though, trouble. But when I walk into the commissioner's office, I don't realize that this assignment's going to prove that sometimes the guy who tries to take somebody for a ride ends up getting taken. Morning, Commissioner. You sent for me?
The Blue Lion has sent us another guest, Steve.
The Blue Lion?
A pub in London. Acting on a tip, we arrested a man on his arrival in the States last night. His passport and other identification were forged. He's the fifth illegal entry we've picked up in a month.
So how does the Blue Lion fit into the picture?
That's where these people picked up their phony passports. They don't know or won't tell us any more than that.
I guess that calls for a visit to the Blue Lion, huh?
The Scotland Yard's given the place a clean bill of health, Steve. The owners are well-known, respectable, and I doubt the man behind this racket is still using the place as a rendezvous, since so many of his clients have been arrested.
Any other leads, Commissioner?
Several days ago, a crew of workmen found a small package behind some loose bricks in the basement of a house in St. Margaret's Mews in London. The package, wrapped in newspaper, contained a half-dozen forged passports.
Identified as our friend's work.
Right.
I see. So if I can find out who put that package there, I might find out our master penman?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And the date on the newspaper, Commissioner?
Brace yourself, Steve. April 29th, 1945.
1940. 7 years ago. You mean that package was stashed away all that time?
Right. I know it's a long shot and a cold trail, but we've nothing else to go on. Get over there, Steve. Check with Inspector Jellicoe of Scotland Yard. Find out what you can about that house in St. Margaret's Mews. Pick up the trail and nail the man who's running this passport racket. Well, that's it. You've got your assignment. Good luck.
The National Broadcasting Company is presenting Dangerous Assignment, starring Brian Donleavy in the role of Steve Mitchell, colorful two-fisted government agent. At all those places of the world where danger and intrigue walk hand in hand, there you will find Steve Mitchell on another Dangerous Assignment.
Sure, I've got my assignment. Get over to London and track down a master penman who's running a flourishing racket and phony passports, and all I have to start with is a package wrapped in a 7-year-old newspaper. The package that was found hidden away in the basement of an old house. It's late Thursday afternoon when my plane lands. I head for Scotland Yard and the office of Inspector Jellicoe.
Here's a brief history of the house, Mr. Mitchell. A list of occupants and owners, past and present.
Look, Inspector, about this newspaper, the wrapping on the package that was found in the basement.
Oh, yes, I have it right here, Mr. Mitchell.
Is there any possibility that the package might have been hidden away in the house during, say, the past year?
Oh, hardly. You see, Mr. Mitchell, the house in St. Margaret's Mews was severely damaged during the war years. A good deal of repair work was done in the basement in the latter part of 1945. New walls, reinforcements, so on.
I see. And the package was found behind the new construction work.
That's right.
Exactly when did this repair job begin, do you know?
Let me see. Yes, here we are. The work was begun in August of 1945.
And this newspaper is dated April 45. Well, that narrows it down to roughly 3 months when it could have been put there. I wonder why the package wasn't removed during that time. Why he didn't come back for it.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Who owned the house then, Inspector?
Oh, it's in the report here. Let me see. Yes. Yes. Ian Mackay, the second cousin of Sir John.
Live there alone?
He was with the Royal Air Force at the time, living at the house with his wife, Emily, 2 youngsters, Ronald and Valerie.
Any servants?
3, yes. An elderly couple named Denny and a maid named Clara Fitzsimmons.
Where are they now, do you know?
Well, Ian Mackay was killed in a plane crash in 1946. His wife remarried 3 years later and is now living in Canada, and the children are with her. The Dennys are both dead. But as for the maid, Clara, well, we haven't been able to track her down yet.
Who could have had access to that basement other than the people living in the house?
Anyone in the whole of London, Mr. Mitchell.
What?
Yes, you see, it was used for a time as an air raid shelter.
Oh, great. Well, let's get back to the item you were wondering about, Inspector. Why was the package stashed away there in the first place? Any ideas?
Well, let's examine this possibility. The person carrying the package believes he's being followed.
The police, and he doesn't want to get caught with the evidence on him.
So he slips into the air raid shelter. It's deserted. He finds a place to hide the package, slips out again.
This piece of newspaper seems to back up that line of thinking, Inspector.
You've noticed that, haven't you?
Sure. Here we have a single sheet torn from the rest of the newspaper. And what is it? Part of the want ad section. Up at the top of the page is the tail end of the column Rooms to Let.
Indicating that our friend, aware that he was being followed, was seeking a change of address. You'll notice the last 6 listings in that column have London addresses. And there are some pencil marks beside them.
Be too much to expect to find him still living in one of those rooming houses after 7 years, but it might give us a lead.
Righto.
I'll take a crack at it, Inspector. You have any plans?
Well, I thought I'd drop around to the Blue Lion Inn, check with a man I have there, and then go on trying to track down that maid of the Mackays, Clara Fitzsimmons.
Good idea. Well, see you later, Inspector. The odds on our long shot are growing, and the chances I'll find the gent I'm after look slimmer by the minute as I start out with my list of addresses. The first one is a bust. The same goes for the next address and the next. Things must have been tough in April. 4 down and 2 to go. Now it starts to rain. I rush on to the next place, 61 New Romney Road.
Come in, Diddy.
At the door, the landlady, a rather large one, greets me. There's a pleasant air about her, and that air includes a faint trace of gin. I settle down into a heavy overstuffed chair.
45, you say? Well, now, dearie, that's going to take a bit of thinking, I'm afraid.
You don't keep a record of your boarders, Mrs. Farland.
Never bothered to. Might I offer you a little nip of something? I always have a small glass before supper. Helps the appetite, you know.
Thanks, but I'll skip this round if you don't mind.
Also takes the chill out of one's bones. Nasty weather out, ain't it, dearie?
So it is. Now, about this advertisement, Mrs. Farland, it appeared in the Dover Times on April 29th, 1945.
Well, I don't seem to recall it at the moment, but if you say so.
Here's a copy of the paper.
Oh, yes, so I see. 1945. We'd had it proper, if you know what I mean. 41 was a nasty year it was. Dreadful. The Nazi bombers overhead day and night.
I'm trying to locate a man who might have answered this ad, Mrs. Farland.
That was more than 7 years ago, dearie.
I know. It's going back a long time, but there's something in the back page of this paper that might spark your memory. It's the continuation of a story regarding Mussolini.
No, him. What about Baldy?
He was killed at Lake Como the day before, April 28th, 1945.
Was it really?
That's right. Help any?
Of course it does. I remember it clear as crystal, I do. Stella and a young man were supping with us. They'd just got married.
Stella?
One of my roomers. Been with me for 5 years. Oh, for Mo now. Just Stella's room was advertised in the paper. Of course it was. It all comes back to me now. I rented the room the very next day.
And do you recall who took that room, Mrs. Farland?
Well, I'll never forget it, dearie, never. It was a gent named Pinto. Jaggers Pinto. I'm a good judge of character and all that, dearie. But Mr. Pinto was my first mistake.
Oh, what happened?
Police came for that nasty little twerp the day after he moved in.
What?
That's right. With his fine manners and all, he turned out to be a common burglar. Smash and grab man, you know. Got 5 years, as I understand.
Thanks, Mrs. Farland. That's all I wanted to know.
What was that name again, Mr. Mitchell?
Jaggers Pinto, Inspector. He was picked up at 61 New Romney Road on May 1st, 1945. Smash and grab artist.
Served 5 years. That could explain why the package wasn't picked up from the basement. His present address is 924 Bexhill Place.
Hey, how'd you know that?
I've been checking up on your Mr. Pinto through quite another lead. You see, I found Clara Fitzsimmons.
The maid who worked for the people who had the house on St. Margaret's Mews in 1945?
Right. She's a barmaid now, and her married name is Mrs. Yeager Pinto.
Oh, brother. Wait a minute. Did you say a barmaid?
I did.
And just where is she working?
Can't you guess?
Yeah, the same pub where those people we arrested picked up their phony passports. The Blue Lion Inn.
Right.
10 minutes later, Inspector Jellicoe picks me up in his car, and we roll out to 924 Bexhill Place, the present address of our long-lost friend, Jaggers Pinto. It stops raining as we pull up in front. We go inside, and the landlord gives us the room number we want. Then, just as we start up the stairs... Hey, Mitchell, come on. Upstairs, sounded like.
Yes. Look, there on the floor.
Yeah. I hope it isn't.
I'm afraid it is, Mr. Mitchell. Yes, he matches this picture I have of him. It's Jaegers Pinto. He's dead.
Steve Mitchell will continue his dangerous assignment in just a moment.
December 31st, 1952, Brian Donleavy, Dangerous Assignment on Classic Radio Theater. Classic Radio Theater on your favorite station. More of Brian Donleavy, Dangerous Assignment, December 31st, 1952.
Now back to Dangerous Assignment and Brian Donleavy as Steve Mitchell.
The inspector and I set up headquarters in the parlor to question the boarders. The first one we talked to is a Mr. Sam Cathcart.
Two of us was having a pint of beer up in his room, we was.
Pinto's room?
That's right. There was a knock on the door. Pinto went and opened it.
Did you see who it was?
No, sir. I was sitting on the other side of the room. I heard Pinto say, "Oh, it's you." Then he stepped out into the hall and closed the door. I sat there several minutes, and just as I was about to go and see what had happened to him, I heard that shot. I ran outside and down to the back hall, and, well, they were you two gentlemen bending over his body. Blimey.
The person who knocked on the door, Mr. Cathcart, did he say anything at all to Pinto?
Not a word as I could hear, sir.
Then you don't know whether it was a man or a woman.
That I don't, sir.
Very well, Mr. Cathcart, that'll be all. Please send it to the next person.
Right, sir. Poor Pinto. Blimey.
Blimey. Quite. Well, he tells a straightforward story. Be interesting to know if it also happens to be a true one.
Yeah, the way it figures, Pinto was the leg man in the passport racket, and the forger probably killed him to shut his mouth.
Come in.
See me, Inspector?
Yes. Yes, your name, please.
Walter Michaels. I'm an insurance solicitor. I was calling on a client of mine whose rooms are on the third floor, a Mr. Jones. But he didn't answer the door.
Johns? Well, let's see. The landlord informed me that Mr. Johns had left the house for the railroad station a half an hour or so before the killing on a business trip.
You've no right to prevent me, you know. It's outrageous.
Sounds like a bit of a
What do you
row out
mean?
in the hall.
Yeah, take a look.
I'll listen.
What seems to be the trouble?
This policeman will simply not allow me to go upstairs to my room. It's ridiculous.
Your name?
Johns, but I don't see what business this is of yours.
Will you step in here a moment, please, Mr. Johns?
All right. All right. You needn't tug at my sleeve. It's enough out of shape. With the damp as it is. I'll come.
Sorry, this is Mr. Johns, Inspector.
How do you do?
What sort of foolishness is this, Inspector?
Just routine questioning, Mr. Johns. If you'll just put your overcoat on that chair.
Look here. I'm in a frightful hurry. Can't I make you understand that? I was almost to the railroad station when I realized I'd forgotten some important papers, so I hurried back. Now your man tells me I can't even go up to my room to get them. Since when?
You see, there's been a murder, Mr. Johns.
Since when had... Murder? Good Lord.
Mr. Johns, you haven't said hello to your insurance solicitor here.
My what?
Mr. Michaels here.
I've never seen the man before in my life.
What's that?
Well, how now, Mr. Michaels?
Gentlemen, if I could speak to you in private...
That'll be all for now, Mr. Johns, but your trip will have to wait.
But it's a business trip. Now, see here, you've no right
That will be all, Mr. Johns.
I shall speak to your superior.
Fine, I'll be glad to make an appointment for you.
He...
Sounds like my old college yell.
Quite. Goodbye, Mr. Michaels.
Well, I really came here to see Dora Mays. She has the room across the hall from John's.
Your girlfriend?
Yes. We had quite a row last night. I had a date tonight to thrash the whole thing out, but she didn't show up.
So you came here to her room?
Yes, but she was out. That's where I was when I heard the shot.
Why didn't you tell us this first off, Mr. Michaels?
I was afraid it would get back to Pater.
I see.
You chaps don't seem convinced, but that's my story. Take it or leave it.
Before we take it, Mr. Michaels, we'll check it. But Michael's girlfriend, Doris Mays, still isn't back, so for the time being, there's no way of checking up on his story. I leave Inspector Jellicoe at the rooming house to continue the questioning, borrow a police car, and head for Mrs. Pinto's flat to break the news to her about her husband.
He'd end up like this. I guess that's why I left him.
You were separated?
It's been a year now.
I see. Mrs. Pinto, as I understand it, you were a maid in the house on St. Margaret's Mews back in 1945?
That's right. Pinto came to see me one night. I let him hide down in the basement.
That's when he ditched the package of phony passports down there.
I suppose so. The next morning, he was gone. Then later, I learned he'd been arrested.
I see.
As soon as he was out, he looked me up. I'd just started as barmaid at the Blue Lion then. He promised to turn over a new leaf, so we got married.
But it didn't last very long, huh?
I found out he was still mixed up in something shady, so I left him. A year ago, as I said.
Did you see anything of him after that?
Oh, yes. He'd drop in every now and then at the Blue Lion. I thought he was coming to see me.
Actually, he was probably using it as a contact point to hand out the passports. You happen to know any of his friends?
No. Can't say I wanted to.
He ever mention the man or woman that he worked for?
Well, there was a gent he always turned to when he needed a bob or two. Tracer was his name, I think.
Tracer?
The old Tracer will fix me up, he always used to say.
Wait a minute. Tracer was probably a nickname, and it would sure fit a passport forger. That's probably the boy I'm after. Did you ever see him?
Not that I know of. Pinto used to talk to him over the telephone, mostly.
Did you ever answer the phone when he called?
Oh, yes.
You think you might recognize his voice?
I might.
Is there a phone here?
No, but there's a phone box down the street.
Come on. I want to call the inspector and have him line up all the suspects for you to listen to. Mrs. Pinto puts on her coat and we go outside. I step into the phone box and the little light goes on. Just as I start to dial a number, I spot a glint of metal across the street and I hit the floor fast. I dive outside, but there's no one in sight across the street. Nothing but the mouth of an alley and the sound of some distant running steps. I could never catch up to him now.
Mr. Mitchell.
You okay, Mrs. Pinto?
Oh, yes. I jumped into this doorway when it happened.
Okay, come on. I've got a police car down the street. Huh.
What is it?
Mrs. Pinto, you told me you hadn't been out of your flat all evening, didn't you?
That's right.
Earlier this evening, while we were looking for Pinto, it started to rain.
What about it?
It rained for just about half an hour. It stopped just as Inspector Jellicoe and I arrived at Pinto's rooming house.
I don't see what all this has to do with
Your
the...
coat sleeve is damp, Mrs. Pinto.
Why...
You didn't tell me the truth. You were out of your flat this evening during the time it rained.
But... Yes, I was.
Where'd you go?
I started for Pinto's rooming house to tell him the police were making inquiries about him. Halfway there, I changed my mind. I came back.
You sure you didn't go to the rooming house?
Quite sure.
Hey, hold everything. The damn sleeve.
What about it? I told you.
Yeah, you just told me the answer. I take Mrs. Pinto back to her flat and tell her to lock herself in. Then I go outside and slide behind the wheel of the borrowed police car, just in time to feel a gun barrel nudge me in the back of the neck. Well, that would be Mr. Johns, I presume.
Quite right, Mitchell. Keep looking straight ahead.
Okay. So you're the big cheese of the passport racket.
Start the car. Straight down the street. I'll tell you where to turn.
You've been waiting for me here ever since you took that shot at me in front of Mrs. Pinto's, huh, John?
Yes, I double around the block. Turn here.
Gilbert Place. Where are we heading?
A quiet room where you're going to phone Mrs. Pinto and have her join us.
Oh, get rid of us both, huh?
Right. She may have seen me occasionally in the Blue Lion, but she's heard my voice over the phone. I can't afford to have her around. Left here.
Epping Square.
You knew it was I in the car as soon as you felt the gun barrel. How?
When you put on the act about storming back to the rooming house for some forgotten papers, I remembered the sleeve to your suit was damp. But you were carrying your topcoat over your arm.
Sir.
That meant you got caught in the rain without your topcoat when you went out the first time. Your plan was to make a departure, then sneak back and kill Pinto, which you did. You also picked up your topcoat. It took me until now to put the pieces together.
Rather neat. Now, wait.
You mean wait till after the bottom of the break for our favorite stations? We'll do that if you want. Well, okay. December 31st, 1952, Dangerous Assignment on Classic Radio Theater. Don't forget to visit our webpage to stay in touch with everything going on Classic Radio Theater related. That webpage, classicradio.stream.
Here's a great thing to consider doing right now before the end of the year. Call Medishare and find out just how much you would save by switching to Medishare, the affordable alternative to health insurance. When you call, you'll get some good news and probably be very happily surprised, too. The typical family saves $500 a month, but you might save even more. It's so worth it to at least find out. And you'll see why more than 400,000 people are already members. Medishare is a Christian community that's shared more than $4 billion in each other's healthcare costs. It really is remarkable, and they're very easy to talk to. And here's the thing. If you join before the end of the year, they'll waive your new member fee. That's another $170 you'll save. I'll give you the number here in a second. The call, and you'll get a price within 2 minutes. And again, the deadline is December 31st, so call now. You'll save even more. Call 833-34-BIBLE. That's 833-34-BIBLE. 833-34-BIBLE.
Mike Lindell, the inveterate CEO of MyPillow, wants to give back to listeners. You can get great discounts on all MyPillow products if you go to MyPillow.com. Click on the radio listener special. Deep discounts on all MyPillow products, like the buy one, get one free special on Giza Dream Sheets. All MyPillow products come with a 60-day money-back guarantee, 10-year warranty. Call 1-800-951-8175 or go to MyPillow.com. Click on the radio listener special. Use my promo code USA. And you're listening to Classic Radio Theater on your favorite station. Dangerous Assignment ran during the summer of 1949 as a summer replacement series. The network liked the show, but it would be until January before they could find a slot for the show. The show would run from 1950, and Brian Donleavy, reportedly the one who originally brought the show to NBC, the show would run until July 8th of 1953. And then, interestingly enough, many of the same scripts redone by Australian actors in 1954 broadcast 39 episodes across the island nation of Australia. Now the conclusion of Dangerous Assignment starring Brian Donleavy, December 31st, 1952.
There's a police car ahead of us. Turn around. Back!
Okay.
Back the way we came to the first turn. Right. And then... another police car.
What do you know?
Slow down. I'm getting out.
Sorry, you're not leaving, Johns.
Let go of my wrist.
Let go of the gun.
No.
Drop it or your wrist goes with it.
No,
My, but you're hard to convince. Now, just sit back and we'll wait for our friends, the police.
How could they follow us? How did they know where we were?
Real simple, Johns. This is a police car, remember? When I reached down to start the car, I also flipped the radio switch. We've been on the air all this time.
The radio?
Yep, you sang plenty. That's how come you got the business. Matter of fact, you might call it a singing commercial, huh?
Our star, Brian Donleavy, will return in just a moment. If your child can run and skip and jump, he's lucky. Just think how you'd feel if he'd been crippled in last year's record infantile paralysis epidemic. More than 186,000 Americans, most of them children, were stricken by infantile paralysis in the last 5 years. And last year's polio epidemic was the worst on record. Would you like to save 30 million children from attack by infantile paralysis? Well, it takes millions of dimes and dollars spent in medical research before a protective vaccine is discovered. And now your national foundation is $7 million in debt. Yes, the 1952 blow of polio has gotten its fighters rocking on their financial heels. And remember, you can't fight your child's enemy just by wishing. It takes giving. Your giving. Take a walk now, won't you, so the polio-stricken may walk later? Join the 1953 March of Dimes.
Next week, Burma. The road to Mandalay almost turns into a one-way street.
And that will be Steve Mitchell's dangerous assignment next week. Included in tonight's cast were Virginia Gregg, Ben Wright, Don Morrison, and Dan O'Hurley. This is John Storm speaking. Dangerous Assignment, starring Brian Donleavy as Steve Mitchell with Herb Butterfield as the commissioner, is written by Bob Reif and Adrian Jondeau and is directed by Bill Karn. Be with us again next week at this same time when Brian Donleavy, starring in the role of Steve Mitchell, will embark on another transcribed Dangerous Assignment.
December 31st, 1952, Dangerous Assignment. By the way, I fibbed. I said the show came to NBC on a regular basis beginning in January of 1950. It was actually February 6, 1952, when the show rolled in to NBC for a full-time basis as opposed to a summer replacement series. Dangerous Assignment here on Classic Radio Theater. Classic Radio Theater on your favorite station. You know, for much of radio's history, radio and newspapers didn't get along, except when the newspapers owned the radio stations, and now when the radio stations own the newspapers. But there were very few issues of cooperation, and that's what you're going to hear right here. The Hearst newspapers had a newspaper supplement called the American Weekly Magazine that was inserted in the papers. And Hearst Syndicate produced a weekly 15-minute radio program to promote that. That's what you're going to hear today, a program called Front Page Drama. Now, this episode originally broadcast December 31st, 1950.
A front-page drama from the files of the American Weekly.
Well, if you hadn't been so stubborn about getting married on the 24th, this might never have happened.
So we're back to that again. All right, hereafter I won't even sneeze without consulting your Aunt Gertrude.
Oh, stop it, Dick. Isn't it enough that everything's going wrong?
And everything had gone wrong for Julia and Dick. Instead of being on their train heading for the North Woods, they were cooped up in a stuffy hotel room in the city. Was it really because they had ignored Aunt Gertrude's warning? Listen in just a moment as Front Page Drama brings you an amusing story from the files of the American Weekly, the great magazine that is distributed with a leading Sunday newspaper on sale in this city. When Julia Seaton told her Aunt Gertrude she'd picked the 24th as her wedding day, Aunt Gertrude consulted the stars and informed Julia the 24th wouldn't do at all. The stars weren't favorable. But young folks never do listen, and on the afternoon of the 24th, Julia and Dick were married. Soon after the ceremony, the newlyweds, accompanied by Julia's mother, slipped away from the reception and went back to the Seaton home to get their bags and await the taxi which would take them to the station.
I wish he'd get here. I don't want to miss that train.
Just where are you going, children? I'd like to know, just in case I should have to get in touch with you.
You couldn't get in touch with us even if you did know, Mrs. Seaton.
Mother, we're going to a hunting lodge in Maine. It belongs to Dick's friend, Johnny Carruthers. And, it's just miles away from anywhere.
But there must be a telephone.
Nope, not even electricity.
Oh. Well, won't it be, rather rough?
Oh, I don't mind, Mother. Of course, if that job with the sugar refinery had come through for Dick, we'd have had a whole year in the Virgin Islands. But it didn't. So this'll just have to do as well.
Don't remind me, honey. It was just too good to be true, I guess. But never mind. I'll make it up to you someday. See if I don't.
Dick, haven't you had any definite word about that job yet?
No, and I was told if I didn't hear by last Monday, I could consider that I'd been rejected.
Oh, let's not even think about it anymore. We're going to have 2 heavenly weeks in the North Woods.
Yep, and we're on our way now, honey. Here comes our cab. Only 2 more miles to the tunnel, Julia. From there, we ought to make the station in 20 minutes.
Oh, sit back and relax, darling. There's always another train.
Now, today there isn't. If we don't catch this one, we'll have to wait 24 hours for the next. Oh, do you hear that?
Yes, I do.
Driver, what's that noise I hear?
I just noticed it myself. Must be a flat.
A flat?
Oh, Dick.
I'll have a look around.
If it is, we're sunk.
Oh, Dick, maybe Aunt Gertrude was right after all.
Don't be silly.
That's what it is, all right. A flat. You want to give me a hand with a spare, bud?
I do not. We've got a train to catch. We'll get out and catch another cab.
Here? In the highway? Oh, you're liable to wait an hour before another cab comes along. You better give me a hand. It won't take too long. Well, here you are. Grand Central.
That's great. It's 5:52. Our train left 7 minutes ago.
Dick, what are we going to do?
What is there to do? Go home and wait until tomorrow.
Oh, I couldn't. After all those goodbyes?
Make up your mind, folks. I can't park here all day.
Take us to a hotel.
What hotel?
Any hotel.
Well, there's one right down the street.
Okay, here's your fare. Let us out here.
Get up on the curb, both of you. I'll hand out your bags to you. Here. Now grab this one.
I've got it.
And here's one. And here's another. Okay. Is that all of them?
Yes, I guess so.
Well, I'm sorry about you missing the train, Bug.
Yeah, I know. Julia, you'll have to carry one of these. Take the small one.
All right, dear. Dick, where's my blue suitcase?
Blue suitcase? Isn't it here?
No, it isn't. Oh, Dick, we left it in the cab.
Can the stores really be held responsible for flat tires and forgotten suitcases? It was certainly beginning to look as if Aunt Gertrude had a point when she advised Julia to choose a more auspicious day for her wedding. Listen for the conclusion to this front-page drama in just a moment. The American Weekly is a magazine that is full of features that interest men and women alike. There are household, beauty, and cooking hints, and there's plenty of romance in the American Weekly each week. There's adventure, science, fascinating facts, and all true in every issue of the American Weekly. There are beautiful color illustrations, fascinating true stories about famous people, written by the best writers in the world. Ask your dealer for the Sunday paper that distributes with it the American Weekly. See why over 9.5 million readers from coast to coast have made it the nation's reading habit. And now, back to our front-page drama. Half an hour later, Julia and Dick were settled in a hotel room with the prospect of waiting until the next day for a train to take them on their honeymoon.
What are you looking at out of that window, Julia?
Bricks. 100 million bricks. You'd think a room on the 17th floor would have a view.
Not when the building right across the air shaft is 28 stories high. If we could only remember the name of that cab company.
It was a yellow cab, that's all I know.
I wasn't even smart enough to notice the guy's name on the license photo.
Well, he knows we're stopping at this hotel.
You really expect him to bring that suitcase back of his own accord?
Well, I would.
Don't be naive, Julia.
Well, if you hadn't been so stubborn about getting married on the 24th, this might never have happened.
So we're back to that again. All right. Hereafter, I won't even sneeze without consulting your Aunt Gertrude.
Oh, stop it, Dick. Isn't it enough that everything's going wrong?
Oh, I don't mean to rub it in, honey. I tell you what. Let's make believe we didn't miss that train at all. We'll just pretend we meant to spend the night in New York.
Dick, you're sweet.
Hello? Send up a dinner menu, will you? Room 1707. Yeah, thanks.
But, Dick, that's so extravagant.
And that's not all. We're going to have lobster and champagne, and afterwards we'll see a show. This is our honeymoon, isn't it? Julia, see if there's any bicarbonate in that small bag of mine, will you? My mother usually packs some for me.
All right, Dick, I'll look. Whatever could it have been that disagreed with you?
I don't know, unless it was that lobster.
Well, I don't see any bicarbonate here, dear. We could stop in for some on the way to the theater.
Theater? You don't think I'm going to any theater in my condition?
But all you need is a little bicarbonate, and you'll be feeling fine in no time.
I'm not so sure about that. This may be ptomaine for all we know. And don't stand there looking at me. Anybody would think it was my fault.
Well, it is your fault if you must know. We couldn't have been married on the 23rd or the 25th. No. It had to be exactly on the ill-fated 24th.
Here we go again.
Well, just look at what's happened to us already. A flat tire, missed our train, lost a suitcase, and now you get ptomaine poison.
It's just a streak of bad luck, that's all. Come to think of it, my bad luck started on the day I asked you to marry me.
What?
Well, just on that day, I applied for that job in the Virgin Islands. I didn't get it, and nothing's happened right ever since.
I see. Well, Dick, I don't know why you should be burdened with me a minute longer if I'm such a jinx. You know, just because the minister said a few words, it doesn't mean that...
Now what are you talking about? Whoever said anything about your being a jinx? It was just a coincidence. Julia.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Who the devil is that?
They told me at the desk that I... Oh, yeah. You're the ones. I brought back your bag.
Julia, look. Your suitcase.
I had to come all the way down from the Bronx, bud.
Well, thanks a million. Here, take this.
Well, thank you. So long.
Wait a minute. Don't leave that suitcase. Take it downstairs. And take these others, too. This one and this one.
Julia, what's the idea?
I'm going home. That's the idea. I'll just get my coat.
Not without me, you're not going.
There's no reason why you should come with me.
Oh, yes, there is. I'm not going to have you tell your mother what a heel I am. She's going to hear my side of the story. Okay, Cabby, let's go. You know, Julia, this ride has done me a lot of good.
You mean you don't feel nauseous anymore?
Nope. This hour's drive is just what I needed. It's wonderful how time puts things into the right perspective.
Oh, it does?
The case is really so simple. By coincidence, a lot of things went wrong today. But what does it mean? Nothing. Nothing at all. Why, if we had any sense of humor at all, we'd have a good laugh at ourselves and start all over. Don't you agree with me? Well, anyway, it's one way of looking at it.
I don't like to interrupt, folks, but ain't this the house?
Yes, it is. We're home, Julia. There's your mother on the porch. Now, don't say anything you'll regret later.
Children! Oh, for goodness sake! Why, you're back.
Oh, Mother, don't feel badly. We just ran into some bad luck.
Bad luck? Why, oh, goodness, this is the most wonderful thing that ever happened.
What is?
Well, you're coming home. I don't know what it was that made you turn back, but I'm so thrilled I can hardly talk.
Oh, what's happened, Mother?
Well, Dick's mother was just here a little while ago with a telegram. It came for Dick just about an hour after you left.
For me?
Yes, from the sugar refining firm.
Say. Holy smoke, say that again.
From the sugar refining firm. They're holding the job open for you only until noon tomorrow.
Sweetheart, are you going to tell your Aunt Gertrude to go climb a tree, or shall I?
Oh, Dick, the Virgin Islands.
A whole year in a tropical paradise. Darling, darling.
Hey, Bud, remember me? $3.50 for the cab.
was quite a while before Dick got to paying the cab driver. And the next time you have a flat tire, miss a train, or lose your luggage, don't be in a hurry to blame it on the stars. It may be the luckiest thing that ever happened to you. This has been another front-page drama from the files of the American Weekly. Naturally, real names have not been used. It's Gloria Swanson who brought a new word into common usage, glamour. The quality of glamour which she projects was aptly summed up by Cecil B. DeMille, who said of her, "When you put them all together and add them up, Gloria Swanson comes out the movie star of all movie stars." You'll want to read the true facts about her, and you'll get them in the article entitled Glamour is Born, appearing in the January 7th issue of the American Weekly as part of the series called Love, Laughter, and Tears. The American Weekly is the magazine that is distributed with leading Sunday papers everywhere. Readers in more than 9.5 million homes from coast to coast look forward to it every week. Ask your news dealer for the Sunday paper that carries with it the American Weekly, and share the nation's reading habit.
And there you have it. From December 31st, 1950, front page drama. Basically a quarter-hour infomercial for the magazine. But still, it was quite entertaining, wouldn't you say? December 31st, 1950, front page drama on Classic Radio Theater. Another reminder to visit our webpage, classicradio.stream. It is the easiest way to stay in touch with us. It also, if you will also follow there on our page, classicradio.stream, we have our Facebook and Twitter pages linked up there so you can find out how to stay in touch with us that way without having to come to classicradio.stream. But I would like for you to come to my page because on classicradio.stream you can learn more about classic radio collecting and to contact me directly there in addition to hearing our shows on demand. And also our podcasts, which are our shows. We put each hour of our show into a podcast up on the internet, and you can find them at classicradio.stream or other places where podcasts are served, including iHeartRadio, Spotify, Spreaker, and TuneIn. Don't forget to thank this radio station and support their advertisers. The stations are kind enough to put us on here. The sponsors are kind enough to pay to keep this radio station on the air. I'm Wyatt Cox. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater on your favorite radio station.